Olympus Bunk Bed Assembly Video. Before you begin assembly, please make sure to read the assembly manual thoroughly, as it contains important safety warnings and assembly tips. Please note that there are some steps in the assembly process that might require 2 people to help with the assembly. Start the assembly by checking the parts list. Verify that the following parts are included with your assembly. Check the assembly for the following hardware. The following tools are recommended for this installation. Step 1. Removing the packing boards. Begin Step 1 by removing the packing boards located on the sides of Part 2 components. Pull the boards from each end and set them aside.
Step 1 is now complete.
Step 2. Inserting the wooden dowels. For this step, you will require the following parts. Begin Step 2 by locating Part 14 and placing it flat on the ground. Next, locate the end holes and place 2 Part A wooden dowels on each end, as shown. Insert the dowels into the dedicated holes. Use a hammer to slightly tap the wooded dowels into place. Repeat these steps for the opposite side and insert 2 more dowels on the opposite end. Locate 3 more Part 14 rails and insert the wooden dowels at each end. Next, locate Part 15 and insert 1 wooden dowel on each end. Insert the dowels into the dedicated holes. Tap the dowel into place if needed as previously shown, and repeat this step for the opposite side. Repeat these steps by locating 3 more Part 15 boards and inserting the wooden dowels to each end. Locate Part 3 and insert 1 wooden dowel to the dedicated holes on each end. Next, locate Part 13 and insert 1 wooden dowel to the dedicated hole on one end, as shown. Repeat these steps. Locate 1 more Part 13 and insert the wooden dowel. Locate 1 Part 21 and place it flat on the floor. Insert 1 wooden dowel into each end. Insert the dowel into the dedicated holes. Next, locate Part 11 and insert 2 wooden dowels into each end, as shown. Locate 1 more Part 11 and insert 2 wooden dowels into each end. Next, locate Part 17 and insert 2 wooden dowels into each end, as shown. Finally, locate Part 2 and insert 2 wooden dowels into the dedicated holes on the bottom side and 1 wooden dowel into the top hole, as shown. Repeat these steps for the opposite side. Repeat the steps for the second Part 2 assembly. Step 2 is now complete. Step 3. Assembling the headboards. For this step, you will require the following parts. Begin Step 3 by locating Part 2 from the previous step. Next, place 1 Part 5 post on the left-hand side and 1 Part 4 post on the right-hand side. Align the hardware to the following locations. A total of 4 Part B bolts, 2 on top and 2 on the bottom. 2 Part G crescent nuts to the bottom holes, and 2 Part J barrel nuts to the top holes, with the wooden dowels matching the holes on the post. Push the posts into place. Insert the Part G and Part J nuts into the allocated holes on Part 2 and insert the bolts through the post. Next, tighten the top and bottom bolts using the provided Part H Allen wrench. Take care not to over-tighten the bolts. Repeat these steps for the opposite side. Finally, repeat these same steps for the additional headboard. After all hardware has been tightly secured, Step 3 is now complete. Step 4. Assembling the closed footboard. For this step, you will require the following parts. Begin Step 4 by locating Part 21, Part 3, and Part 11. Next, place one Part 10 post on the left-hand side and one Part 9 post on the right-hand side. Align the hardware to the following locations. 2 Part B bolts to the top holes, 2 Part C bolts to the center holes, and 2 more Part B bolts to the bottom holes, followed by 2 Part G crescent nuts for Part 11 and 2 Part J barrel nuts for Part 21. Starting with the right side, push Part 9 and match the side holes with the wooden dowels. Next, insert the bolts through Part 9 and insert the Part G crescent nut and Part J barrel nut into the dedicated holes. Fully tighten the bolt using the provided Part H Allen key. Take care not to over-tighten the bolt. Tighten all remaining bolts. Repeat these steps for the opposite side. After all hardware has been tightly secured, Step 4 is now complete. Step 5. Assembling the entry footboard. For this step, you will require the following parts. Begin Step 5 by locating Part 11 and Part 17. Next, place one Part 19 post on the left-hand side and one Part 20 post on the right-hand side. Align the hardware to the following locations. A total of 4 Part B bolts, 2 Part G crescent nuts, and 2 Part J barrel nuts will be needed. Starting with the right side, push Part 20 and match the side holes with the wooden dowels. Next, insert the bolts through Part 20 and insert the Part G crescent nut and Part J barrel nut into the dedicated holes. Fully tighten the bolt using the provided Part H Allen key. Take care not to over-tighten the bolt. Repeat these steps for the opposite side. Next, locate 2 Part C bolts and 2 Part 13 boards. Insert Part 13 boards into Part 19 or 20 post, depending on which side you wish to install the ladder or staircase. Assuming you wish to have the opening on the left backhand side, attach both Part 13 boards to Part 19. Match the wooden dowels to the dedicated holes and push the bolts through Part 19. Fully tighten the bolt using the provided Part H Allen key. Fully tighten both bolts. Next, locate Part 12 post and attach it to the opposite end of both Part 13 boards. Make sure bottom screw holes face inward. Push Part 12 post towards to Part 13 boards and secure it using 4 Part E bolts. Fully tighten the bolt using the provided Part H Allen key. Using 2 Part F screws, secure Part 12 post. Tighten the screws with a Phillips screwdriver. After all hardware has been tightly secured, Step 5 is now complete. Step 6. Attaching the side rails to the headboards. For this step, you will require the following parts. It is recommended someone assists you with this step. Begin Step 6 by having someone assist you by keeping the 2 headboards standing upright. Next, locate 2 Part 14 side rails and align them in between both headboards as shown. Slowly push the Part 14 side rails into place. Match the dowels to the dedicated holes in both headboards. Next, insert 2 Part G crescent nuts in the side holes found in the intersection of both Part 14 side rails, and insert 2 Part D bolts on the opposite side of both headboards. Hand tighten both Part D bolts at this time. Repeat these steps for each corner and hand tighten all Part D bolts. After securing each corner, fully tighten all bolts using the provided Part H Allen key. Take care not to over-tighten the bolts. Repeat these steps for the opposite side, and fully tighten all remaining hardware that was previously installed.
Step 6 is now complete.
Step 7. Attaching the slat kit and large dowels.
For this step, you will require the following parts.
Begin Step 7 by inserting 1 part I large dowels on top of each headboard, as shown. Insert the large dowels. You might need a hammer to tap the dowels in place. Make sure all dowels are pushed into place. Next, place the slat kit, part 16, in between the side rails. Slowly center the slat kit onto the rail cleats. Make sure to place the slat kit flush with each end, exactly matching the ends of part 14 rail cleats. Next, secure the slat using 6 part F screws in the locations shown. Starting with the 2 screws located closest to one of the headboards, insert the corner screws into the dedicated slat holes.
Tighten the screws using a Phillips screwdriver.
Repeat this on the opposite side and tighten the second corner screw. Now, repeat near the opposite headboard. Finally, tighten the 2 screws located in the center.
Step 7 is now complete.
Step 8. Attaching the rails to the footboards.
For this step, you will require the following parts.
It is recommended someone assists you with this step. Begin Step 8 by placing 1 part 14 side rail and 2 part 15 guardrails in between and on each side of the 2 footboards. Slowly push the rails into place and match the dowels to the dedicated holes in the footboards. Next, secure each corner with 4 part G crescent nuts and 4 part D bolts. Place the nuts in the inside holes found in the intersection of the part 14 and part 15 guardrails, and place the bolts on the exterior side of each corner. Insert the part G crescent nuts into the allocated holes and secure them using the bolts. Hand tighten all part D bolts at this time. Repeat these steps, and for now, hand tighten all remaining bolts on each corner. After all the bolts have been attached, proceed by fully tightening the bolts using the provided Allen key, part H. Repeat this step and fully tighten all remaining hardware.
Step 8 is now complete.
Step 9. Attaching the upper slat kit and center boards.
For this step, you will require the following parts.
Begin Step 9 by placing the slat kit, part 16, in between the side rails and footboards from Step 8. Slowly center the slat kit onto the rail cleats. Make sure to place the slat kit flush with each end, exactly matching the ends of part 14 rail cleats. Next, secure the slat using 6 part F screws in the locations shown. Starting with the 2 screws located closest to one of the footboards, insert the corner screws into the designated slat holes. Tighten the screws using a Phillips screwdriver. Repeat this on the opposite side and tighten the center corner screw. Now, repeat near the opposite footboard. Finally, tighten the 2 screws located in the center. Next, attach 2 part 18 center boards, 1 on each side of the assembly. Attach the center boards on the guardrails and side rails using 3 part K screws. Tighten the screws using a Phillips screwdriver. Tighten the remaining screws and repeat these steps for the opposite side. Finally, place 2 Part M bolts and 2 Part L threaded nuts on the opening side near the end. Fully tighten all bolts using the provided Part H Allen key.
Step 9 is now complete.
Step 10. Attaching the upper bunk bed assembly. Begin Step 10 by locating the assembly with the wooden dowels sticking out at each end post. Next, with another person assisting you, place the newly formed upper bunk on top of the headboards of the bottom bunk, inserting the large dowels into the bottom of the footboards. Slowly push the assembly into place. Congratulations! You have completed the assembly of the Olympus Bunk Bed. Before using your new bed, verify that all hardware is intact and that all parts are tightly secured in accordance to the owner's manual. Enjoy your new Olympus Bunk Bed.